Part 2. Lacerations. Chapter 11. Parable. A certain sluggish sea turtle goes nearly nowhere, grows fat on the gloomy bed of the sea, seeks no food, allows the food to come to him. He yawns, as it were, perpetual yawns. His open mouth looks like any other ragged cavern in sea junk, except that his tongue dandles upward and twists precisely like a worm. A curious, loopy, blameless, and tasty worm. So some earnest fish, to satisfy his hunger, darts for the worm. So this turtle, to satisfy his hunger, snaps shut his mouth, and all that's left is a swirl of bubbles. No worm. There never was a worm. No fish. He's part of the turtle now. No hunger for either one, thank God, and the cave has become a smile. Now, here's the point. Which particular fish the turtle shall eat, why, that's a nearly impossible question. The odds against one Miranda's providing a smile for the turtle are very comforting to Miranda. She needn't live in constant alarm. But that the turtle shall have his fish, why, that's no question at all. One shall surely happen by, and one shall act as fishes act, so one shall die. The turtle may eat his fishes one by one, but his faith is in the species whole. Not because of Miranda, but because of fish shall he live. Yet the last he snapped was Miranda's father, so Miranda, though she needn't be alarmed, is very sad. Certain things are certain. Fish will be fish. So the turtle has opened his mouth again in the perfect trust that it will be filled, and he hasn't swum an inch. And here's the point of comparison. Worm, in prison, has allowed a flue between the surface of the earth and his lair below, a winding, descending corridor. For him, there can be no ascending it, not so long as the keepers keep him. It isn't stone, but they're woven spirits which deny him freedom. But the keepers are free, therefore they may descend the chimney, he cannot ascend. The netherworld hath ingress and stairs. The chimney opens at the deepest corner of a short, sudden canyon, an old limestone cleft which runs from north to south in the colder, more northern regions of the earth. The canyon, then, as remote and unremarkable as it is Worm's narthex, and the small cave in the deep of it, his portal. But Worm has arranged for his portal one detail which a passing animal might remark after all, and which might draw the animal's closer attention. A plain brown bird of shattered wings sits in a bush and in misery, uttering nonsense because she has no tongue, but warning, so she supposes, the good-natured against going this way that she has gone. She has made it her devotion, forever, to block this portal, to protect anyone from the unspeakable evil that bulks below, and from the horrible memory that is hers. She thinks she is a guard, and would die in the duty. In fact, she is a tongue, dandling upward, the lure of the evil that bulks below, and one day she shall be his token. Worm trusts the animals whole. One shall certainly happen by and then act as animals act. There isn't the slightest doubt that his more immediate purpose shall be accomplished, for there are many animals in the world, and there isn't the slightest interest in who gets used in the act. In this he is like the sea turtle. Both can wait, and neither shall ask the name of the one who comes. In another matter, however, he is unlike the sea turtle. That beast merely swallows and yawns again. But Worm has a stratagem, a plan, purpose upon purpose, at the end of which there is no longer the species, but an individual, a creature of very particular character and station. He is by nature and by appointment a leader, and he most certainly has a name. Worm wants Chanticleer. Great Worm needs Chanticleer the rooster. On the way he will take whoever comes, casual in his killings, but finally his freedom depends upon the deliberate soul of one. One and then all. Finally, Chanticleer. First Chanticleer and then the whole creation. But though evil may be careless of the names those it manipulates, a careful report cannot be. Goodness must find in every creature his significance and call each one by name. So then, who was it that happened upon the canyon and the brown bird and worm's dismal portal? The least of all God's creatures on earth, Ferric Coyote, him. Chapter 12. Ferric. At the edge of the great northern forest, at the foot of a steepling pine, low, low down, crouched at his forelegs, up in the rear, grinning, it seems, with all of his teeth, a coyote is hiding. He thinks he is hiding. In fact, he's in full view from 3 sides, with only his butt to the tree trunk. But this is the way he hides. He freezes. Poor Ferric. He's convinced that perfect stillness effects perfect invisibility. And he is not grinning. He's scared. His cheeks go back to his ears when he's scared, and his eyes narrow into 2 pitiful darts crossing at his snout. And the snout itself seems to sharpen. Ferric. Fear turns him into one long, taut nerve, an arrow fixed mid-flight, or a bowstring, which, if it's only touched, would hum at a high pitch. Ferric has frozen this way often in his lifetime, since life itself is for him a dangerous proposition. The coyote is cursed with senses too keen for a fainting heart. His ears are dishes, they hear everything. His paws are raw, and his bones are hollow tubes, and his skin tympanic. They feel everything, magnified. His eyes are perpetually frightened. They see every twitch in nature, and any twitch may be malicious, for no twitch that he knows doth love him. Well, none but Rachel. She loves him, but she is inexplicable. All his life, poor Ferric has fallen into freezes, but lately the dangers have multiplied tenfold, and he's begun to ache with hiding. Because of Rachel, whom he loves in return, but who has no fears whatsoever. None. Poor Ferric. He yelps and he hides for 2. And suddenly, 3 weeks ago, his wife took a notion to travel. So they left their little territory of forest, which was at least familiar to them, and set off on a trip which has agonized the coyote nearly to death. One, because they've trotted. No, she has trotted. He has skittered and dashed and crept and frozen and dashed again. Through alien pine, trespassing, and 2, because he hasn't the slightest idea where they're going or when they'll get there. Where, Rachel? I'll know it when I see it, she says. Why, Rachel? A wink, an exasperating, knowing wink. You'll know it when I tell you, she says. And he, for God's sake, Rachel, when? When you're able, she says, and she laughs and she goes. And he could never allow her to trot to the world undefended, and therefore zoom! In a weary panic he has shot ahead of her, to scan the world for danger and to save her life, to freeze for 2. Poor Ferric, his speed has not rewarded him at all. Instead, it has presented him with the most disastrous sight that he has ever seen, and he is now paralyzed in a freeze of spectacular petrification. He simply had never imagined that such scenes could exist. He had almost bolted into it himself, was saved at the last instant from that calamity by instinct, quickness, and a skidding stop. Ferric Coyote has come to the end of the forest. Ferric Coyote, with a dreadful eye, is staring at open spaces. There is nothing on the land before him. Nothing. Nothing at all. No trees nor tree trunks, hills or valleys, bushes or thickets, or anything to contain his gaping soul. Infinity. Why, One more step and he would have exploded. It is a land without protections, a plains without a single hiding place. The creature who ventured such a vast immensity would go stark naked. And behold, it has an ending. So when the creature reached that ending, curved below the sky, what then? Well, he'd fall off, that's what. Poor Ferric is frozen beyond his known capacity. Yet one part of him keeps moving, his gullet. The coyote swallows 1,000 times at the sight. Then comes Rachel, and the beast's heart nearly fails. For does she acknowledge the diabolical fraud that nature has played on them by coming to an end? And is she impressed? No. Or does she so much as stop to take account of their terribly altered circumstances? No! That woman, that red, relaxed, that reckless woman, when she draws beside him, she looks and giggles with delight. She whispers, "Lovely," and "What an abundant God we have." He says all he can say in his freeze. Psst. She glances at him, smiling, then kisses his wooden jaw and trots straight outward onto the blank. He huffs, he puffs, he hyperventilates, and through his grinning teeth he produces the steam of extreme alarm. Ferric is a petcock. Well, Rachel recognizes the intensity of Ferric's speech, if not the sense of it. She pauses and turns to look on her bleak husband. Oh, she is so lovely and so vulnerable. Gently, she comes back to him, all her joints loose and her expression content, and she nuzzles him, sharp as a drawn arrow. "Oh, Ferric, be at peace," she murmurs. "This isn't terrible. It's exactly what should be. Give me 6 minutes to look. And I'll be back, and then I'll tell you the good thing God is doing for us." And this is what happens. Rachel, with a fine bush tail, as healthy as Ferric is thin, Rachel trots 60 yards across the faceless landscape and disappears. Ferric blinks. There isn't even a scream in him, but 1,000 needles prick his neck. His hair stands up. This horror's too sudden to have a name. She didn't leave so much as a shadow behind. She's gone. "Rachel!" All at once he's on his feet. "Rachel!" The coyote gathers his strength, his legs on a single spot of ground, and springs. The arrow is shot. He scorches the ground. "Rachel!" And then, as smoothly as she disappeared, she reappears again. Head, breast, and legs above the ground. And what is that? What is that? She's laughing. Okay, so Ferric stubs his forelegs down. He thrashes out a turn and takes himself back to the cloaking forest again. He doesn't turn around. No, she can have his tail for all he cares, laughing in the face of his fears. "Oh, Ferric, Ferric," she exults, coming up behind him. "I knew that I would find it, and I have." What Ferric had, he had a headache. He had a wife. She's breathless, so is he. She's laughing, and she tries with her nose to tickle him. He puts on a very severe expression. "Humph! Did you see me vanish?" She laughs. "I vanished, and you know why? Because there's a canyon there, invisible from here, right?" "Humph, woman, humph. You want me to say right, but I say humph. Listen. A stream of water runs through it. Water spouts at the north end, where I was, and runs down the narrow bottom. And isn't that just wonderful? It's exactly what I've been looking for. It's why we came." "Good," mutters Ferric Coyote. "I have a headache. Let's go back." "Back? Oh, Ferric." Rachel comes round to face her husband, nose to nose, and then she lays her neck beside his own and urges him to lie down, and so does she. They lie quietly a moment. "Ferric," she says into the silence, "no. The whole purpose is We came to stay. Stay? Stay in a vast and limitless land? It is at this point that the coyote begins to groan. Tired, after a long, tense trip, he goes to mewing in his nose. Shh, shh, good husband. We can't keep wandering anymore. We have to stop, on account of the thing that God is going to do for us. Rachel, what is this mysterious thing? Ferric is sighing, nearly whining. Rachel whispers, What I've been looking for, Ferric, is a home. We need a home for all of us. And the canyon is watered, and the canyon is well protected. There isn't a better place for you to hide in. Us? Ferric halts on that little word. He says with a careful courage and a whole new fear, All of us? Then Rachel grins till the tears are standing in her eyes, and she gazes at her husband. Yes, she whispers, Ferric, I am going to have our babies. What Ferric Coyote says then, on the edge of infinity, sky and land and the bewildering future, is, Tss! Babies? He's found a new reason to freeze. Chapter 13. Dreaming. Chanticleer is dreaming. It's a nightmare in absolute darkness, and there's nothing he can do about it. He fell asleep beside the Liverbrook with his head beneath his wing, his nostrils close to the oily smell, the sour smell of that ball of filth. By his deep breathing it invaded his throat and run through the passages of his body, ascending to his brain, and now it has become his dream. The dream is an odor. He is surrounded by a rank, choking air, cold, and he is shivering, dark, and he is blind, vast, and he finds no walls to touch. He might be in a vault. His feet, he moves his feet, touch stone. The mood is morbid, one of unspeakable oppression. Someone is dead. Suddenly, at such a distance that he has to cock his head to hear it, a woman wails, and the wailing overwhelms him. One single sound, so lonely, long and hopeless. Chanticleer gasps at her frail desolation, her calling, her calling with no hope of an answer, but calling in some inarticulate tongue until her voice shakes like a dead leaf in the wind. Jug, Jug! She cries from the rim of the universe. Jug, Jug! And the rooster's heart is split. Jug, Jug! Jug, Jug! Teru! He can't stand it. He sucks breath, swelling his lungs with the carrion stench. He strains his neck and crows like the bugle, Woman! And an echo, Woman! What do you want me to do for you? You, for you. The echo is a shock, like a battering in his face. He throws up his wings, and when his voice has died, so has all sound with it. And he listens. With all his might he listens. But the woman is gone, and he is buried in his loneliness. Oh God, he frightened her away, or else he lost the last little notes of her calling in his crow. Always he acts too violently. Always he kills things in his fervor. And now he yearns for even the misery of her voice. She, at least, was someone. But then begins the second episode of his dream, and this one's worse. Another voice sounds in the darkness, terribly near, terribly mild and beautiful, and altogether unctuous. It runs round him like oil. Sing, says the voice, and the voice says, What shall we sing? Too calm, too courtly, self-assured. Even in this foul place, that voice is in command. It can be quiet because it is so mighty. Chanticleer wants to go home now. He wants the stream to stop. He's in the presence of pure force. We'll sing of heroes, says the voice. We'll remember them gratefully, song by song, says the voice. and the voice says, "How right and proper to praise the great who went before us." Chanticleer is snapping his head left and right, and he trembles. He knows that voice, and he's impotent within it. He can't see. "Stop it," he whimpers. "Harmonize," says that voice, and the voice says, "We'll make duets of epitaphs." It drives on like the clouds. "Of whom shall we sing?" says the voice, and the voice says, "Of Russell the Fox." "No!" yelps Chanticleer. Power is one thing, but power disturbing his friends is obscene. "Let Russell be!" How puling are his own denials. Foul cock, foul Chanticleer, he can't even defend the name of his friend. For now there rises a litany, a narrow plain song filled with the fox. No rhythm and no rhyme, but a counterpoint, so elegant as to seem sacred, and a line made lovely by simplicity. So the rooster's confused by guilt, because this is, after all, an exquisite memorial, and why should he object to it? Pride? He bows his head below the chant and hates himself. Foul Chanticleer. In time the plain song dies away. "Whom next shall we sing?" says the voice, and the voice says, "Mundo Cani Dog." But that's a name he absolutely cannot hear. Now Chanticleer breaks and tries to run away, but the stone is endless, and the voice is ever at his ear. "Yes, the dog deserves our singing," says the voice, and the voice says, "The finest of us all." He can't stop it. God, he knew the dream would be cruel. This is the one name that most scourges his soul and beats him with savage remorse. "I said," he shrieks, running, "I said that I can't bear to remember him!" But the voice drives on like the clouds. "Who once belonged to the keepers," said the voice, and the voice responds, "Who now belongs to me." "Please!" "A hero in either camp," says the voice, and the voice agrees, "since I have learned so much from him." "Then sing." Again the chant begins, modulating sweetly on the name of Mundo Cani, his woeful nose and his holy deeds, his humility and the immemorial sacrifice. And Chanticleer is shattered. He collapses in darkness, curling tightly to his pain, precisely like the child who knows nothing but the ache, lying on his side. "Worm, worm, will you never let me be?" That's the voice he recognizes. Worms. All at once Chanticleer woke up under Pertolote's wing. He flung her aside and screamed from the tops of his toes, from the top of his lungs, "Worm!" "Chanticleer!" cried Pertolote. The waterfall thundered below them. For a moment his eye was wild, darting all around himself. Almost he screamed the vile name again, but he caught himself and ended, staring at the hen. "Chanticleer?" she said. He drilled her with his eye. Then he demanded, "What are you doing here?" He drove the question into her like a nail. "Why didn't you leave me alone? Why couldn't you just stay home?" Pertolote was lying like a rag beside the stream, but she answered, "Sir," and she whispered, "we came to be with you. Wherever you are, that is our home." "I'll kill him," he said. His poor wife tried to find her footing. It was a blazing eye in his head. She had been loving him so gently until he opened it. Therefore she was hurt the more, and she did not understand.